My name is Blanche, and I am 62 years old now. After working my entire life, I finally bought my dream home right on the beautiful California coast. $3 million of savings sacrifice and pure determination. Then my son-in-law called. His voice dripped with entitlement as he announced that 20 people were on their way to stay at my house for 3 weeks. He called me old lady and demanded I prepare everything immediately. I smiled and made a decision that would change everything. Before I tell you what happened when they arrived, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that subscribe button and stay with me, because this is one lesson my son-in-law will never forget. And honestly, neither will I. Let me take you back to where this all began, because to understand why I did what I did, you need to know who I am and what I went through to get that house. I grew up in a small town in Nebraska. My father worked the land as a farmer, waking up before dawn and coming home after sunset with dirt under his fingernails and exhaustion in his bones. My mother cleaned houses for wealthy families on the other side of town. We never had much, but my parents taught me the value of hard work and the importance of dreaming big even when your pockets are empty. I was determined to make something of myself. I studied harder than anyone in my class, stayed up late with textbooks, while other kids were out having fun. That dedication paid off when I earned a full scholarship to college. I remember the day I left Nebraska, my mother crying at the bus station, my father shaking my hand and telling me to make them proud. I studied accounting because I was good with numbers, and I knew it would give me a stable career. After graduation, I landed a job at a small accounting firm in Ohio. The salary was modest, but I saved every penny I could. I lived in a tiny apartment, ate simple meals, and put money away for the future. That is where I met Harold. He worked at the same company in the sales department. He was charming and kind with a laugh that could fill up a room. We started dating, and within 2 years we were married. I was 26 years old, and I thought I had everything figured out. Harold and I built our life together from nothing. We both worked long hours, supported each other through difficult times, and dreamed about the future. One of our biggest dreams was to own a house by the ocean. Harold had grown up in Kansas, far from any coastline, and he was fascinated by the sea. The first time we visited California together, we stood on the beach in Santa Monica, and he turned to me with that sparkle in his eyes. "Someday, Blanche, someday we will have a house right here, looking at this water." I believed him. We made a pact that day to work toward that dream, no matter how long it took. Years passed. We had our daughter Teresa, and suddenly our priorities shifted to raising her. The beach house dream got pushed to the back burner, but we never forgot about it. Every year, Harold would put a little extra into a separate savings account he called the Ocean Fund. It was not much, maybe a few $100s here and there, but it added up over time. I climbed the corporate ladder slowly but steadily. I moved from junior accountant to senior accountant, then to financial controller, and eventually to chief financial officer of a mid-sized company. It took me 35 years, but I made it. Harold was so proud of me. He would tell anyone who listened that his wife was the smartest woman he had ever met. Then the unthinkable happened. Harold was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The doctors said he had 6 months. He lasted 4. Those final months were the hardest of my life. I took leave from work to care for him, holding his hand through chemotherapy, wiping his brow. When the fevers came, telling him stories about the beach house we would never build together. On his last day, he squeezed my hand and whispered to me, "Promise me you will get that house, Blanche. Promise me you will stand on that beach and watch the sunset for both of us." I promised, and I meant it. After Harold passed, I threw myself into work. It was the only way I knew how to cope with the grief. I worked harder than ever, saved more aggressively, and made smart investments. The ocean fund grew larger with each passing year. I also received a substantial life insurance payout that Harold had set up, which he had never told me about. Even in death, he was taking care of me. 15 years after Harold passed, I retired at 62 with $3.5 million to my name. It was more money than I ever thought I would have. I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. I spent 6 months searching for the perfect property along the California coast. I looked at houses in San Diego, Newport Beach, and Santa Barbara. Nothing felt right until I found the house in Malibu. It was everything we had dreamed of. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the Pacific Ocean. There was an infinity pool that seemed to blend into the horizon, a spacious kitchen with marble countertops, and a master bedroom with a private balcony where you could watch the sunrise every morning. The property sat on a bluff, giving it unobstructed views of the coastline for miles. The asking price was $3 million. I paid in cash. The day I signed the papers, I sat on the balcony and cried. I talked to Harold as if he was sitting next to me. "We did it, honey. Our dream house. I just wish you were here to see it." For the first few weeks, life was perfect. I woke up every morning to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. I drank my coffee on the balcony, walked along the beach before breakfast, and spent my afternoons reading books I had put off for years. I joined a local yoga class, made friends with some neighbors, and started painting again, a hobby I had abandoned decades ago. I was at peace for the first time in years. I thought this chapter of my life would be quiet and serene, filled with simple pleasures and sweet memories. I was wrong. Now, to understand what happened next, I need to tell you about my daughter Teresa and her husband Derek. Teresa is my only child, and I love her more than anything in this world. But I will be honest with you. She has always struggled with certain things. Money management is one of them. Independence is another. From the time she was a teenager, Teresa had a hard time budgeting. She would spend her allowance within days and come asking for more. I tried to teach her about saving, about planning for the future, but she never quite grasped it. She believed that things would always work out somehow. When she graduated from college with a degree in marketing, I hoped she would finally learn to stand on her own 2 feet. She got a decent job at an advertising agency, and for a while things seemed to be going well. Then she met Derek. Derek was charming at first, I will give him that. He had a confident smile, a firm handshake, and a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He worked as a car salesman at a luxury dealership, and he dressed the part. Expensive suits, flashy watches, designer shoes. He looked like success, even if he did not actually have it. When Teresa brought him home to meet me, something felt off. I could not put my finger on it at the time. Maybe it was the way his eyes lingered a little too long on the artwork on my walls, or how he asked detailed questions about my job and my retirement plans. It felt less like getting to know me and more like an appraisal. But Teresa was happy, happier than I had seen her in years. So I kept my concerns to myself. When Derek proposed after just 8 months of dating, I congratulated them both and offered to help pay for the wedding. That was my first mistake. The wedding cost $75,000. Derek insisted on a lavish ceremony at a fancy venue with 300 guests. He said it was important for his image. I paid for most of it because Teresa asked me to. And I have never been able to say no to my daughter. After the wedding, things changed. Derek no longer bothered to maintain the charming facade around me. He started making comments about my age, about how I should relax and enjoy my golden years instead of worrying about money. He called me nicknames that he thought were funny but were actually demeaning. The old lady, Grandma Pennypincher, your ancient mother. At first I let it slide. I told myself he was just joking, that this was his sense of humor. But the jokes kept coming, and they got meaner over time. Then the requests for money started. It began small. Derek needed a few thousand for a business opportunity that could not wait. Then Teresa needed help with their mortgage because Derek had been let go from his job. Then there was the car loan Derek could not quite cover, and the credit card debt that had somehow spiraled out of control. Over the course of 8 years, I gave them more than $50,000. I never saw a penny of it back. Every time I brought up repayment, Derek would get defensive, and Teresa would get upset, and somehow I would end up feeling guilty for even asking. But the money was not the worst part. The worst part was how Derek treated my home. When I lived in Nebraska before I moved to Malibu, Derek would show up unannounced with groups of his friends. The first time it happened, he brought 6 people to my house on a Friday evening. They stayed the entire weekend eating my food, using my things, leaving messes everywhere. I spent 3 days cleaning up after them. When I mentioned it to Teresa, she brushed it off. That is just Derek, Mom. He is social. His friends are nice people. Nice people do not leave dirty dishes piled in the sink. Nice people do not track mud through the house without apologizing. Nice people do not drink all your wine and leave the empty bottles on the counter like trophies. But I stayed quiet. I always stayed quiet because I did not want to create problems between Teresa and me. I was afraid that if I pushed too hard, I would lose her. So I swallowed my pride and kept cleaning up other people's messes. When I bought the house in Malibu, I made a conscious decision to keep it private. I told Teresa about it because she is my daughter, but I asked her not to share the news with Derek just yet. I need some time to settle in, I explained. Just keep it between us for now. Teresa promised she would. But I knew my daughter. She had never been good at keeping secrets, especially from her husband. I gave it 3 weeks before Derek found out. I was right. It took exactly 3 weeks. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was sitting on my balcony reading a novel. The sun was warm, the breeze was gentle, and I had a glass of iced tea sweating on the table beside me. Life was good. Then my phone rang. I looked at the screen and saw Derek's name. My stomach tightened. Derek never called me. In 8 years of marriage to my daughter, he had called me maybe 5 times, and every single time it was because he wanted something. I answered cautiously. "Hello, Derek." His voice came through loud and brash. "So I hear you bought yourself a fancy beach house. $3 million, huh? Not bad for an old lady." I closed my eyes and took a breath. There was no point asking how he found out. The answer was obvious. Yes, I bought a house. "What do you need, Derek?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What do I need?" "Nothing. Just calling to say we are on our way to you." I sat up straight. "Excuse me, there will be 20 of us. Me, Teresa, and some of our closest friends. We are taking a road trip down the coast. 20 people." I repeated, not quite believing what I was hearing. "Yeah, 20. Maybe a couple more. We figured since you have that big new house with the pool and the ocean view, you would not mind hosting us for a while." "For a while." "How long is a while?" 3 weeks. Maybe 4, depending on how much fun we are having. My grip tightened on the phone. "Derek, you cannot just invite yourself and 20 strangers to my home for a month." "Strangers? They are not strangers. They are my friends. And you are family, right? This is what family does." His tone shifted from casual to demanding. "Now listen, we will be there in about 50 minutes. Prepare beds, towels, slippers, the works. Make sure the fridge is stocked. We have been driving for hours and everyone is hungry." I could hear laughter and chatter in the background. He was already in the car with his friends. This was not a request. It was an announcement. "And one more thing," Derek added. "Make sure the pool is clean. The guys want to swim as soon as we get there. Hurry up, old lady." Then he hung up before I could respond. I sat there for a long moment staring at my phone. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from anger. Pure concentrated anger that had been building for 8 years. For 8 years, I had tolerated Derek's disrespect. I had loaned him money he never returned. I had cooked and cleaned for his friends while they treated my home like a hotel. I had bitten my tongue every time he called me old lady or made jokes about putting me in a nursing home. I did all of that because I loved my daughter, and I did not want to cause problems in her marriage. But this was too much. He did not ask if he could come. He did not ask if I was available. He demanded that I prepare for 20 people like I was his personal servant. He gave me 50 minutes to transform my peaceful retirement home into a free resort for strangers. And he called me old lady one more time. Something inside me snapped. But it was not a violent snap. It was more like a switch flipping. A calm, cold clarity settled over me. If Derek wanted to play this game, I would play. But I would play by my rules. I picked up my phone and started making calls. The first call was to my lawyer. I explained the situation briefly and asked one simple question. If someone comes to my property without my permission and refuses to leave, what are my options? My lawyer confirmed what I already suspected. It is your property. You have every right to deny entry to anyone. If they refuse to leave, they are trespassing, and you can call the police. That was all I needed to hear. My second call was to a local security company. I explained that I needed 2 guards at my property within the hour for a potential trespassing situation. They said they could have someone there in 45 minutes. Perfect. My third call was to Teresa. She answered on the second ring. Hi, Mum, what is up? Hi, sweetheart, did you tell Derek about my house? There was a pause, then a guilty sigh. Mum, I am so sorry. It just slipped out. He kept asking why I was so secretive, and I could not keep lying to him. I understand. And did you know he is on his way here right now, with 20 people? Another pause longer this time. Wait, what? He said it was just going to be us visiting you this weekend. He did not say anything about 20 people. So she did not know. That was something at least. Well, he just called me. 20 people 3 weeks, and he gave me 50 minutes to prepare beds and stock the fridge. Teresa's voice rose. Are you serious, Mum? I had no idea. I swear I did not know he was planning this. I believe you, honey. But I want you to know something. I'm not going to let them in. Silence on the other end. I continued. I have spent 8 years being disrespected by your husband. I have given him money. I have opened my home to his friends, and I have never received so much as a thank you. This house is mine, Teresa. I worked my whole life for it. I am not going to let him turn it into a party venue for strangers. Mom. Teresa started, but I cut her off gently. I am not asking for your permission, sweetheart. I am just letting you know what is going to happen. Whatever happens next is Derek's choice. I hung up and went inside to prepare, but not the kind of preparation Derek was expecting. I walked through my house and locked every bedroom door except the master. I turned off the air conditioning. I locked the door that led to the pool area and the backyard. I went to the kitchen, gathered everything perishable from the refrigerator, and moved it all into the garage, which I then locked. The only thing I left on the counter was a single bottle of water. Then I went to my room, changed into a nice outfit, put on a touch of makeup, and fixed my hair. I wanted to look composed and dignified when I faced Derek. By the time I was done, 40 minutes had passed. The security guards arrived, 2 professional-looking men in uniform. I explained the situation and asked them to wait near the front gate. Just stand by for now, I told them. I will call you over if I need you. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat down on my living room sofa, and picked up my book. I waited. I did not have to wait long. Exactly 50 minutes after Derek's call, I heard the rumble of multiple engines coming up the private road to my house. I set down my book and walked to the window. 5 large vehicles pulled up to my driveway. SUVs and pickup trucks, all of them packed with people. Doors opened, and bodies spilled out laughing and shouting. I counted quickly. 22 people in total, men in tank tops and board shorts, women in bikinis and cover-up coolers, and duffel bags being unloaded from trunks. Derek emerged from the lead vehicle, a black SUV that I was pretty sure I had helped pay for. He stretched his arms over his head like he owned the place, surveying my home with a satisfied grin. I watched him walk up to my front door, his entourage trailing behind him. He did not knock. He just grabbed the handle and tried to turn it. The door was locked. His grin faltered. He tried again harder this time. Still locked. Then he started ringing the doorbell repeatedly, pressing the button over and over, like a child throwing a tantrum. I took my time walking to the door. When I opened it, I did not step aside. I stood firmly in the doorway, blocking the entrance. "Hello, Derek." His smile returned, but it was strained now. "Finally. What took you so long?" "Come on, let us in. Everyone needs to use the bathroom." I looked past him at the crowd gathered on my lawn. Strangers, all of them. Some were already walking toward the back of the house, probably looking for the pool. "Let you in," I said calmly. "I do not recall inviting you." Derek blinked. "What?" "Come on, Blanche, do not be like that. We drove all this way." "That sounds like a you problem, Derek, not a me problem." His face reddened. "Look, just move. Everyone is tired and hungry. We can talk about whatever is bothering you later." I did not budge. "What is bothering me is that you called me 50 minutes ago and demanded I prepare beds, towels, and food for 20 strangers. You did not ask. You demanded. They are not strangers. They are my friends. They are strangers to me. I have never met any of these people. And this is my home, Derek. Mine, not yours." Derek stepped closer, his jaw tight. "You are being ridiculous. Teresa said you would probably be difficult. I told her you would come around." "Did she? And did she also tell you that I specifically asked her not to share my address with you?" That caught him off guard. He recovered quickly. "What does that matter? We are family." "Family," I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Family does not demand. Family does not show up with 20 extra people without asking. Family does not call me old lady and order me around like a servant." Behind him, I could see people starting to pay attention. The laughter had died down. They were watching us now. Derek lowered his voice. "You are embarrassing me in front of my friends." "No, Derek. You embarrassed yourself the moment you decided to treat me like a doormat." He tried to push past me then. Physically push past me into my own home. That was when I raised my hand and signaled to the security guards. They walked over immediately, positioning themselves on either side of the doorway. "Sir," one of them said firmly, "please step back." Derek's eyes went wide. "Who the hell are these guys?" "Private security," I answered. "I hired them for exactly this situation. You hired security against your own family. I hired security against trespassers, which is what you and your friends will be if you enter my home without permission." Derek looked from me to the guards and back again. His face cycled through several emotions in rapid succession. Disbelief, anger, embarrassment, fear. "This is insane," he sputtered. "Teresa, call your crazy mother." I smiled slightly. "Teresa is not here, Derek. And even if she were, it would not change anything." He pulled out his phone and dialed. I could hear it ringing. Then Teresa's voice on the other end. Derek did not bother with pleasantries. "Your mother has lost her mind. She will not let us in. She hired security guards." I could not hear everything Teresa said, but I caught fragments. Phrases like, "What, 20 people? And you said it was just us, and you lied to me." Derek's voice grew more desperate. "It is not a big deal, just some friends. Tell her to let us in." There was a longer pause. Then Teresa's voice clear enough for me to hear. "Mom is right, Derek. You cannot just show up like that. I am not going to call her and tell her she is wrong, because she is not wrong." "You are." She hung up. Derek stood there with the phone in his hand, his world clearly crumbling around him. His friends were watching, murmuring among themselves. This was not the fun beach vacation they had been promised. The silence stretched out for what felt like minutes, but was probably only seconds. I stepped outside my door and faced not just Derek, but the entire group gathered on my property. 22 pairs of eyes staring at me, some confused, some annoyed, some embarrassed. I kept my voice calm and clear. "Let me make something very clear to all of you. This house is mine. I worked 40 years to buy it. 40 years of sacrifice, of saving every penny, of missing vacations, and driving old cars and saying no to things I wanted. I did not buy this house to become a free hotel for strangers." I paused, letting that sink in. "I do not know any of you. Derek did not ask my permission to bring you here. He did not even have the courtesy to request. He demanded. He called me 50 minutes before arriving with 22 people and told me to prepare beds and towels and food like I am his servant." My eyes found Derek. He could not meet my gaze. "Derek, I have known you for 8 years. In that time, you have borrowed over $50,000 from me and never paid back a single cent. You have brought your friends to my previous home multiple times without asking, left messes for me to clean, eaten my food, used my things, and never once said thank you." His friends shifted uncomfortably. Some of them were already backing toward their cars. "You call me old lady like it is a joke. You talk about putting me in a nursing home like I am a burden. You treat me with contempt and then expect me to welcome you into my home with open arms." I straightened my spine and lifted my chin. "That ends today. I am not your servant. I am not your bank. I am not your doormat. I am a 62-year-old woman who has worked hard for everything I have, and I deserve to be treated with respect." I pointed toward the road. "There are plenty of hotels in Malibu. I suggest you find one." For a moment, nobody moved. Then one of the women in the back grabbed her bag from the ground and walked toward the SUVs. A few others followed, then a few more. Within minutes, people were loading back into vehicles, slamming doors, starting engines. Derek stood frozen, watching his vacation plans disintegrate before his eyes. His friends were leaving one car at a time until only his black SUV remained in my driveway. "You are going to regret this," he said, his voice tight with humiliation. "Teresa will never forgive you." I walked closer to him, close enough that only he could hear. "Teresa is my daughter. I have loved her since before you existed in her life, and I will love her long after you are gone. But loving her does not mean I have to accept being disrespected by you." I held his gaze. "If you want to be part of this family, really part of it, then learn some manners. Learn to ask instead of demand. Learn to say thank you. Learn to treat people, especially your elders, with basic human decency." I stepped back. "If you cannot do that, then the door is right there. It will always be closed to you." Derek stared at me for a long moment. I saw something flicker in his eyes. Maybe it was the first hint of realization that his behavior had consequences. Maybe it was just wounded pride. Either way, he turned without another word, got into his SUV, and drove away. I stood in my driveway and watched until his tail lights disappeared down the road. The security guards approached me. "Is everything okay, ma'am?" I smiled. "Everything is just fine. Thank you for your help." After they left, I went back inside my house. My quiet, peaceful, beautiful house. I poured myself another glass of wine, walked out to the balcony, and watched the sun beginning its descent toward the horizon. The ocean was painted in shades of gold and orange. The waves rolled gently against the shore. A pelican glided past riding the evening breeze. I thought about Harold, about the promise I made to him, about the 40 years it took to get here. Then I raised my glass to the sunset. This one is for you, honey. The aftermath of that day unfolded over several weeks and months. That same evening, Teresa called me. She was crying. "Mom, I am so sorry. I had no idea Derek was planning all of that. He told me it was going to be a small visit, just the two of us, seeing your new place. I never would have agreed to 20 people for 3 weeks. I know, sweetheart, this is not your fault." "But he used me," she sobbed. "He used me to get your address. He lied to me about everything. Yes, he did." There was a long pause while Teresa processed this. I waited, giving her the space she needed. "Mom," she finally said, "I think I have been blind about a lot of things." And that was the beginning of Teresa's awakening. Over the following weeks, she started paying closer attention to Derek's behavior. She looked at their finances more carefully and discovered things he had hidden from her. Credit card debt in both their names that she did not know about. Loans taken out against their house. Money that had gone missing from their joint account. She also started noticing how Derek talked about me when he thought she was not paying attention. The snide comments, the mocking tone, the casual cruelty he used when referring to her mother. One night, about 2 months after the incident at my house, Teresa showed up at my door in Malibu. She had a suitcase in her hand and tears streaming down her face. "Mom, I left him." I pulled her into my arms and held her while she cried. I did not say I told you so. I did not lecture her about all the warning signs she had missed. I just held my daughter and let her know that she was safe. She stayed with me for 2 weeks while she figured out her next steps. We spent long mornings walking on the beach together, talking about everything and nothing. We cooked meals side by side in my kitchen, something we had not done since she was a teenager. We sat on the balcony in the evenings, watching the sunset and rediscovering each other. "I should have listened to you," Teresa said one evening. "You tried to warn me about him from the beginning." "You loved him," I replied. "When we love someone, we do not always see clearly. That is not a flaw, sweetheart. It is just being human. How did you know? How did you see what I could not?" I shook my head. I did not know anything for certain. I just had a feeling. And feelings can be wrong. I hoped mine was. But it was not wrong. No, it was not. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Derek fought for everything he could get his hands on, but Teresa had a good lawyer. In the end, she walked away with her dignity and a clean slate. Derek got the debt he had accumulated, the car that was about to be repossessed, and a reputation that would follow him for years. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Derek's friends were not his friends anymore. Word had spread about what happened at my house, about how he had tried to take advantage of his mother-in-law, about how he had been turned away at the door like the uninvited guest he was. Some people might call that karma. I just call it consequences. A year after the divorce, Teresa met someone new. His name was Patrick. He was an elementary school teacher with kind eyes and a gentle manner. The first time she brought him to meet me, he shook my hand and said, "Teresa talks about you all the time, Mrs. Patterson. She says you are the strongest woman she knows. It is an honor to meet you." I liked him immediately. They got married 2 years later in a small ceremony on my beach. Just 25 people, all of them actually invited. I walked Teresa down the aisle myself, filling the role that her father would have filled if he was still alive. At the reception, Teresa pulled me aside. "Mom, thank you." "For what, sweetheart?" "For standing up for yourself that day. For showing me what self-respect looks like. If you had just let Derek walk all over you again, I might never have seen who he really was." I cupped her face in my hands. "You would have figured it out eventually. You are smarter than you give yourself credit for." Maybe, but you made it happen sooner. She hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you will ever know. I am 70 years old now. 8 years have passed since that afternoon when Derek thought he could barge into my life with 20 strangers. Teresa and Patrick live about an hour away from me. They have a daughter named Hope. She just turned 4, and she is the light of my life. They visit every other weekend, and they always call ahead. Patrick helps me with repairs around the house, not because I ask, but because he genuinely wants to. Teresa and I have lunch together on the balcony, while Hope builds sandcastles on the beach below. This is what family looks like, not demands and entitlement, but love and respect and showing up for each other. I still think about Harold often. Every sunset reminds me of him, of the dream we shared, of the promise I kept. I talk to him sometimes when I'm alone, telling him about Hope, about Teresa, about the life I have built in our dream house. I think you would be proud of me, honey. I finally learned to stand up for myself. I like to believe he can hear me. Sometimes I think about Derek too. Not with anger anymore. The anger burned itself out years ago. Now I just feel something close to pity. He had so many chances to be better, to be part of something good, and he threw them all away because he could not see past his own entitlement. I heard he remarried. I heard the second wife left him too. I heard he is still chasing get-rich-quick schemes and still blaming everyone else for his failures. I hope someday he learns. I hope he figures out that you cannot build a life on taking from others, that respect has to be earned, that family is not a word you use to justify treating people badly. But his journey is not my responsibility. I did what I could. I drew a line and I held it. The rest is up to him. Looking back on that day, I realized that standing up to Derek was not just about protecting my home. It was about protecting myself. For too many years, I had let people take advantage of my kindness. I had confused being nice with being weak. I had let fear of conflict keep me silent when I should have spoken up. That day, I found my voice. And once you find your voice, you never lose it again. If there is one thing I want people to take away from my story, it is this. Your boundaries are not negotiable. It does not matter if the person crossing them is a stranger or a family member. It does not matter if they make you feel guilty or crazy or selfish. You have the right to decide who enters your home, who takes your energy, who deserves your kindness. Kindness is not weakness, but kindness without boundaries is an invitation for abuse. I learned that lesson at 62 years old. I wish I had learned it sooner, but better late than never. These days, I spend my mornings walking on the beach, my afternoons painting in my studio, and my evenings watching the sunset with a glass of wine in my hand. I have friends who respect me, a daughter who loves me, a granddaughter who thinks I am the best grandmother in the world. Life is good. Life is peaceful. Life is exactly what Harold and I dreamed it would be. And if anyone ever tries to barge into my home again without an invitation, they will find the door firmly closed. Some lessons only need to be taught once. Now, before I go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had someone in your life who mistook your kindness for weakness? Someone who took advantage of your generosity until you finally had to draw a line? I would love to hear your stories in the comments. Let me know what you did and how it changed things for you. If this story touched you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss more stories like this one. And remember, you deserve to be treated with respect, no matter who is doing the disrespecting. Thank you for spending this time with me today. May you have the strength to protect your peace, the wisdom to know your worth, and the courage to stand up for yourself when you need to. Take care of yourselves. And if you ever find yourself standing in a doorway, deciding whether to let someone in or keep them out, trust your gut. It is usually right.